One night as a very little boy, I looked at my window beside my bed, seeing something I'd never seen before. A big bright light speeding through the sky like a weird satellite going out of complete control. The time I thought what I really saw was a meteor crashing to Earth. Turns out that the big bright light, as a matter of fact, a shiny glimmer ray. Starlight, not that I imagine a starlight shooting through the sky, a starlight. After my experience, I intend to tell that story to you. Starlight Network. Ladies and gentlemen, the following is a reimagining of the story War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The following broadcast is a work of fiction and is not intended to incite panic in our audience.
No one would have believed in what Zemblanities would occur early in the 21st century. In the final months and days of the year 2021, humanity was finally succeeding in overcoming the devastating COVID-19 virus. Little did we know that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intergalactic intelligences greater than our own. Intelligences that would soon declare war on us all. We know now that as human beings busied themselves developing a cure for the COVID-19 virus, they were being scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water.
A bioorganic prophecy based on human life abomination, far greater than any virus in history, had just begun. A number of small Martian spacecraft, unmanned but carrying vials of poisonous gases, plummeted toward the Earth. On entering the Earth's atmosphere, they began to accumulate and spread poisonous, incandescent gases across vast regions of the Earth. Next, toxic weeds began to grow out of the gases that landed, first in gardens, then spreading onto buildings, statues, and monuments.
The weeds had spread so vastly that much of the Earth was no longer habitable, to humans at least. Later, when the Martians arrived, the atmosphere was rich with gaseous byproducts from the weeds, 95% carbon dioxide, producing an ideal environment for Martian inhabitation.
From that moment on, an approximate total of 65% of the human population was instantaneously but spontaneously wiped out by this alien virus. Squadrons and swarms of flying crimson red discs, weapon systems that fire phasers and spray gaseous substances, entered the Earth's atmosphere in search of survivors, hiding and running to safety. According to military intelligence reports and satellite feeds accumulated by SETI, NASA, and multiple Air Force bases across the globe, the spread of the virus was only the beginning of what the Martians were planning.
The flying crimson red discs arrived to search and capture survivors for food. The spaceships were bigger on the inside than on the outside due to a contortion of space-time manipulated by the Martian beings. Most people who survived were now living underground, coveting the remaining oxygen that existed on Earth. Once discovered by the Martians, the survivors were shuffled onto the craft to be executed.
Humans arrived on the ships and were startled to see that the interior was over 100 times larger than the exterior. It was all too evident that these creatures had scientific knowledge far in advance of the human race. In the spaceship, there were cells on each level where the Martians took surviving humans to collect samples of their blood. The Martians' aim was to taste the blood. Why, you may ask? Well, to see whether it was delicious or not.
You are listening to More of the Martians, a presentation by Starlight Network. We will return after this brief intermission.
We return to Starlight Network's radio presentation, More of the Martians.
The alien ships that came from Mars to invade planet Earth were half snake, half octopus-looking machines, as large as a building and with 3 bright red eyes gleaming like a reptilian nightmare. If you can picture the head of an octopus, with snakes for tentacles as large as Godzilla, that is what the Martian crafts look like. The Martians themselves were humanoid in shape and green in colour.
After the aliens had tasted the human blood and noted it was delicious, they decided to keep eating, and although a sample of human blood is quite nice, the Martians underestimated that some parts of the human body would turn out to be poisonous to them and make them very sick. So sick that they would die a violent death one by one until none remained alive.
In the blink of an eye, the swarms of Martian killing machines began to drop dead. Across the globe, these alien creatures fell, all because of an overlooked genetic incompatibility. After the Martians had all perished, there were still a large number of human survivors being held in the cells of the spaceships. This is when the humans realized it was their chance for survival.
It turns out that these last remaining humans were resistance fighters determined to return planet Earth to its former glory. The resistance, as they came to call themselves, located the spaceship's armory and began accumulating flamethrowers and Molotov cocktails. They took possession of the Crimson Red spaceships and began to take flight.
With incredible speed, the resistance fighters began circling the Earth and launching attacks onto the gaseous weeds which poisoned the atmosphere.
It was quite a satisfying serendipity for the remaining survivors of the human race during the moment when the invaders from Mars arrived in the Earth's atmosphere to finish the rest of their task. Straight after spreading their virus of incandescent gases through the Earth's air, they were suddenly doomed. Humanity had won. The civilian soldiers of the resistance had finally successfully completely wiped out the invading enemy. Hi everybody, this is the Accumulator speaking. We at Starlight Network would like to remind our listeners that the story presented here today, More of the Martians, has no further significance than a supernatural joke and work of fiction.
Thanks so much for listening, and tune in next time for another episode of
Starlight Network! One night as a very little boy, I looked at my window beside my bed, seeing something I've never seen before. A big bright light speeding through the sky like a weird satellite going out of complete control. The time I thought what I really saw was a meteor crashing to Earth. Turns out that the big bright light, as a matter of fact, a shiny glimmer ray. Starlight, not that I imagined a starlight shooting through the sky, a starlight. After my experience, I intend to tell that story to you.